So, is the U.S. trying to go to war with Venezuela? Let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. He's the host of the Garland Nixon Show on YouTube. Welcome back, Garland.
Hey, Sabrina, thanks a lot for inviting me. It's been a while, but I'm often lurking in the chat. I maybe not be commenting, but I'm watching your shows and keeping up with it with all your good works.
So I just want to let you know I did see you earlier today on the Duran. Yeah, great job on there. For those who don't know, like Garland Nixon covers foreign policy quite a bit on his YouTube channel, but he frequents also on the Duran. Garland Nixon also usually will bring on like Scott Ritter. I think maybe like once a week or so.
Usually, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll
So
be. I'm pretty sure it looks like I'm going to be hosting George Galloway's show again this Sunday.
Oh, wow. Oh, cool. All right. So you guys can see him on Moats TV. I love that show. George Galloway, they kill it over there. Venezuela. This is a big one. I want to show everybody this announcement that was made from the Trump administration. Trump administration authorizes a covert CIA action in Venezuela. This is big news here, ladies and gents. The development comes as the U.S. military is drawing up options for President Trump to consider, including possible strikes inside the country. So we know that Trump has been coming after Maduro. They are blaming Maduro for drug trafficking in the United States. I feel like that's an excuse that they're using because Venezuela does have a lot of oil. I think that's what this is really about. But it goes on to say here, the authorization is the latest step in the Trump administration's intensifying pressure campaign against Venezuela. For weeks, the U.S. military has been targeting boats off the Venezuelan coast. It says are transporting drugs, killing 27 people. American officials have been clear privately that the end goal is to drive Mr. Maduro from power. So I do want to get your opinion about this, Garland. The fact that Trump is acknowledging that he is authorizing the CIA to take action in Venezuela.
Well, and this isn't the first time. In fact, if people check out Max Blumenthal over at the Gray Zone, he has a good segment where he interviews one of the people who worked with the Trump administration in his prior 4 years and worked with them in an attempt to overthrow the Venezuelan government before. So this is not new. We had the Juan Guaido segment saga go on for a while, but Venezuela is very, very tough. It's unlike a lot of the other South American countries. If you want, I visited there in 2020. I was an election observer per se, but we traveled around the country, met with a lot of people all over the country, met with opposition forces. If you want, I could give you a little bit of background on what I know about Venezuela that makes it so difficult for the imperialists to overthrow the government and steal their resources.
Yeah, I want to hear a little bit about that because, again, like you said, he tried to do this. He implemented a coup during his first presidential term in Venezuela. Anya Parampil wrote a book about that. You guys should check it out. It's called Corporate Coup, where they really broke that down. But what is that about? What is it? Because I know that Venezuela has billions of barrels of oil, and we all know Trump's kind of like he has no filter, so he'll just come out and just say we want the oil. We know he's been known for doing that. But why do you think it is difficult for those imperialist practices to happen in Venezuela?
There are a number of things particular to Venezuela. Number one, it's a large country. It's about the size of France and Germany combined. A lot of Venezuela is inhospitable to boots on the ground, a lot of jungle, a lot of mountains with jungles, so it's not the kind of place you would ever want to go in on foot. You send troops in on foot. It's just one ambush point after another. Another thing about Venezuela, a couple of interesting things. One of the games that they like to play, such as in Syria, is to buy out and bribe the people in high positions in the military. Well, there's a problem with that in Venezuela, the why that wouldn't work of all places. So one of the things that's happened in South America, when in these Central and South America, these former Spanish colonies, was when the Spaniards left, they would leave a small group of 10, 20, 30%, whatever the case may be, up to 30, but sometimes 5 and 10% of actual Spaniards. They weren't indigenous, they weren't mixed with this was an elite ruling class, and they would institute minority rule. So a bunch of European Spaniards would rule the country. One of the things that they did, I mean, all you have to do is look at Mexican soap operas, and you'll notice that none of those people look like actually the Mexicans that we see every day. They all look like Spaniards, right? And the TV, you watch TV, and why is it that the Latino people I see on a day-to-day basis look kind of brown and indigenous, but when I turn on all these TV programs, they all look like they're from Spain, right? Because they are. But one of the things that Hugo Chavez instituted, a number of things. One was this: in a lot of these countries, or in all of the other ones, the only people who are allowed to go to the military academies are these Spaniards, the right-wing Spaniards. So the military is run by the minority in the same way that the government has minority rule. The militaries have minority rule. But Hugo Chavez changed that and said, okay, everybody goes through. And so what you have in Venezuela is a mostly minority, indigenous, and Black-led military. And they're loyal to the Chavista, the Chavez revolution. They're Chavistas. So you can't go in there and buy them out because they're come from amongst the people. So that doesn't work very well. Another thing that's interesting was one of the things they did was they armed the hell out of the people. People are in militia by the millions, and they armed them. Here's your AK-47 and bullets, and some of them, when it's time to call up the militias, far more by the millions. So you have millions of people, millions, all whole communities, whole towns. Everybody's armed, millions. And they trust me when I tell you this. They will let you know we will fight for her. They will point their finger. You tell the Americans we will fight. I mean, women. So you go in there, everybody's shooting at you by the millions. There's going to be, you go by a small town sitting up on a hill, they're going to cut you to ribbons. They're all going to be armed with AK-47s and the like. Interesting. Isn't it interesting how you have this revolutionary government who says, oh, no, we don't want to disarm the people. We'll arm the people because we know they'll fight on behalf of the government because they believe in the revolution. So my point being, there ain't no way to take Venezuela. And if you took Venezuela, there's no way to hold it because where you going to, the whole thing is mountains. You're in Caracas. One of the things that Hugo Chavez did, they've got these big, like those ski lift kind of things. And they have these ski lifts that they put in so that the people from the towns around on these mountains can get on the ski lift free of charge, and they can come into Caracas and go out. And, it gives them an easy way in and out. But that just tells you it's very mountainous. There's no way to move around here. So, what could they do? They could throw some long range missiles at the capital or something. This is a big country. So Maduro could be anywhere in that country. I'm sure by now they know the decapitation strike game. So there could be towns or mountains. They could be anywhere in this gigantic country. There's no way to really tell where they are. So it would be very difficult because I will guarantee you right now, everybody's on the lookout to see if anything's shady going on. It's going to be difficult for the CIA. Now, apparently that's his game plan. Oh my gosh. Well, we're not going to be able to just confront them militarily and attack them. So we'll put in CIA hit squads or whatever. It's not going to be easy to operate. And even, I don't believe they could, but let's just say for the sake of argument, you're able to kill the government. Then what? The people will fight you. All of them. They will shoot at you and they will not stop. There's no way that this would be, imagine Vietnam if everybody was armed.
Right. That's a really good point. And you know what? It seems like everything is lining up perfectly for them to say, okay, we need to go to war with Venezuela. Like, let's go back to the Nobel Peace Prize. I know we were talking about that. Maria, right? So
Oh yeah.
corporate media is celebrating Maria, but when you look into Maria, you see, oh, she's just another Western puppet. She's a Zionist. She begged Donald Trump to bomb her own country and said that Venezuela needs to work alongside Israel. So, but a lot of people don't have time to like do that research. Like if they just have the corporate media like segment on, say you're in like the waiting room at the doctor's office or something, and they a lot of times they may have like corporate media on. You may not have time to like look into that, but think about it. If we connect the dots, Maria was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, and they said that she's fighting for her people against the dictator Maduro. Now you have Donald Trump saying we're sending the CIA in Venezuela. So it's almost as if they lined everything up perfectly to convince the American people we need to go to war with Venezuela.
It's absurd. And as soon as you know they're up to no good, you know it's all lies as soon as they use this word dictator. That is the word. That is like just calling somebody a name. That's the way of saying I hate you, because the interesting thing is they call Maduro a dictator, Putin's a dictator, everybody's a dictator, but they never define what a dictator is. Because I've heard people say, yes, Maduro's a dictator. I'd say, explain to me how. Huh? They know to call him a dictator, but when I say, well, okay, I don't think he's a dictator. I've been to Venezuela, and I don't think he's a dictator. You haven't, and you do. Tell me, what is your definition of a dictator, and how does Nicolas Maduro meet that definition? He was Hugo Chavez's right-hand man. He's a former bus driver. He rose up through the government. The people support him. He gets 64% of the vote. How's that a dictator? How did the dictator get 64% of the vote?
But both administrations have said that the people didn't vote for him. Both administrations say that he stole it.
And both administrations said that the other guy stole it, because the Biden administration said that Trump stole it in 2016, and Trump said that Biden stole it in 2020. Everybody stole it. Apparently, according to these guys, there's no such thing as an election where it wasn't stolen. But I'll tell you who didn't say that. The people who went. Jimmy Carter went to Venezuela as a election observer and the Carter Institute, and left and said, this is the cleanest election I've ever seen in my life. I wish we had it. This is Jimmy Carter, a former president. I went. I said the same thing. Wow, I wish we had this. So it's just another, you know what? They got oil. If Venezuela, as Gerald Salente had said, if their number one export was broccoli, we wouldn't be having this discussion. But since it's gold and oil and all kinds of things like that, well, now they just got to get some, they've got to get some democracy, don't they? I tell you what disappoints me, though, and that is the American people that buy into these. They don't come up with new lies. It's the same lie over and over from the same people. And these poor schlamazels out here believe that stuff. Yes, so-and-so is a dictator. And I'm like, really? We got to go down that road again? The dictator role. Why do dictators always have so much oil? I guess that's the definition of a dictator. You got a lot of oil in your country? You're a dictator.
That's a good point. And to prove that here, you guys see this is also happening. Breaking, Trump announces that the U.S. is preparing for a new war and attack on Venezuela. We are certainly looking at Venezuelan land now. We have the sea under control. So, I mean, they're putting it all out there. Again, this is who people were calling the peace, the peace president, right? So, sending American troops to Venezuela, according to what you were just telling us, Garland, that would be a death wish.
Oh, it would be bad news. I mean, what are you going to do with hundreds and millions, literally millions of armed people who are ready to fight for the revolution? Nicolas Maduro says, I will declare a condition of armed struggle. Well, you know what that means for socialists. That means time to fight, and they are ready to fight. So, and I suspect, there's a lot of socialists and communists in South America that would be flocking to Venezuela, saying, "Oh, good, it's time for the struggle against the imperialists. Count me in." It would be a very serious mistake to attack Venezuela. And Venezuela does have some conventional weapons. They've got some Su-30s. They've got some anti-shipping missiles. They've got some air defense. It is possible that They could put the United States could get a real bad bloody nose. What does Trump do if he attacks Venezuela and some planes get shot down, some ships get sunk by anti-shipping missiles? I mean, for God's sake, we lost to Yemen, and we're going to attack Venezuela. Doesn't bode well for the U.S. military, I'll tell you that much, even conventionally.
Yeah, even people in the Caribbean have been killed. I want to show people this video that came through, and shout out to Camilla at Camilla Press. Report: the United States murdered 2 men from Trinidad and Tobago in yesterday's U.S. strike on a boat in the Caribbean Sea during the fake anti-drug military operations in Venezuela. I just want to play just a little bit of this here.
2 men believed to be Trinbagonians were killed in the latest U.S. drone strike of Venezuelan waters. And now Alasqueva's family is demanding answers.
They say Chad Joseph wasn't a trafficker, just a young man trying to come home. Jensen Levent went to the fishing village to speak with the family.
Like most of the men gathered here at the Las Cuevas fishing depot, Chad Joseph was a fisherman. Both his relatives and residents are denying strenuously that he was involved in drug trafficking. They say his killing was unjust.
When Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar said the United States should kill alleged drug dealers violently, no citizen was listed among the dead. On the U.S.'s 5th airstrike, Trinidadians Chad Joseph and another man identified only as Samaru were among 6 people
that were killed. I can't play this part because it actually shows the attack there. But that's another thing. Like when they have been attacking these boats, I mean, it's just like these 2 guys in the Caribbean. I don't think a lot of people know about this, but how do they have proof that these 2 men were trafficking drugs and not just on a boat?
Well, to have a discussion about whether they have proof is to have a discussion about rules and laws and justice. And what we're looking at is a rogue country in the United States that violates all rules. They don't even pay attention to the rules here when it comes to our constitutional rights. They're sending troops into the streets. So certainly when it comes to being on the high seas, they're just violating the laws. Number one, we do not have jurisdiction out there. Okay, we have no jurisdiction on the high seas. Number two, if we were accusing someone of something where, by the way, we don't have jurisdiction, then we would need proof. But even proof would be no good because we have no jurisdiction to arrest them or anything else, much less kill them. It's simply, well, you know what? Politically speaking, we need to blow up a couple boats. And we'll just say they were drug boats. Who cares? And then we'll have some video, and then we'll just blow them up. And that, I mean, they're thinking of blowing up attacking an entire country. So this is simply extra legal activity. It is this hegemonic mindset that says we're the United States. We can go around the world, do anything we want, kill anybody we want, blow up anything we want. Why? Because they want to steal Venezuela's oil. It's just like a drug addict who's out of money. And so what are you going to do? Well, I'm going to go rob somebody. That's all it is. They want to go rob Venezuela. Common hoodlums, thieves running this country that are simply saying, hey, Venezuela, they got, you know what it's like? It's like every now and then you turn on TV and you see where like some old person who was 79 years old went to the bank and they were barely trundling across the street and some young punk beat them up and took their money or whatever, right? And you're like, man, why would you do that to a weak old person? And they're like, you just answered your own question because they're old and they're weak and I'm young and I'm strong and I'm a predator and I can do whatever I want to them and steal their money. It's a sociopathic, I want this and I can get it, I'll take it. Who cares who else gets hurt? That's our government. Venezuela has gas, has oil, they got gold, they got things of that nature. We want it. We have some very serious economic problems. We'll just go steal theirs. We're trying to do it to Russia right now and China and everyone else. So why not Venezuela? They seem to be the weakest. Maybe we can do that. But I think that in the same way that we got a surprise from Yemen and Iran and these other countries, the world has changed, technology has changed, people will fight. And if they pick a fight in Venezuela, it's not going to turn out well for the U.S.
Yeah. And for people who are not aware, a lot of times you'll hear people refer to these countries as third world countries or, they're very poor, et cetera. But a lot of these countries have immense amount of resources. And that's really what it comes down to. Same thing with like Haiti, for example. I mean, we stole from Haiti. Woodrow Wilson, for those who aren't aware, he sent the Marines into Haiti way back in the day. And not only did they steal from Haiti, but they even took over their banking at that point in time. So a lot of times people point to Haiti and they say it's such a poor country, but they don't realize that like the US, France, and even under the Bill Clinton's administration, we robbed Haiti blind, right? So people also need to think about this when we talk about people being displaced
Well,
and
the
people
U.S. used to control
having to
Venezuela.
move.
Yes, the U.S. used to control Venezuela, and when they controlled Venezuela, what they did to Venezuela is what they do in a lot of other countries. They set their economy up so the only thing they sold was oil, right? They didn't grow. They don't want you to. One of the big things is they don't want a country to grow their own food. That way, we can snatch the food away from them and control them at any time. So they set up Venezuela so it was an oil-producing country, but not doing much else. When Hugo Chavez comes to power, and Venezuela starts getting independent, the United States sanctioned away 99% of Venezuela's income, and then started arguing, yeah, the Venezuelans, look at this, the Maduro government, they're stealing the money, and they're struggling because these people are corrupt, and all. You sanctioned away 99% of their money and then blamed them for being impoverished. And that's what the U.S. does. Same with Haiti. We create we steal everything that's not so nailed down. Then we put in a bunch of colonial puppets to run things so that we can steal the things that are nailed down and then say, well, the government of that country is corrupt. The government of countries that are corrupt, we put corruption in. If they aren't corrupt, then we overthrow them and put somebody in to make sure that they are.
Yeah, they really do. What they want to do is they want to overthrow Maduro and they want to put in a Western puppet. Same thing happened with Libya. Remember, they told us that Gaddafi was killing his own people. It obviously didn't have to show us any proof, and we just believed it. I mean, like it's just things like this. And so we've seen what happens to these countries when the West does come in and they take over. Oftentimes, the people in those countries are worse off after these takeovers than they were before. And you could point to the same thing when it comes to Saddam Hussein, which I mentioned before on the show, which is that say what you want about Saddam Hussein, but when Saddam Hussein was in power, he was able to keep certain things in check. When the US went in and overthrew Saddam Hussein, that opened the door to ISIS. So you see that the people there were worse off. Look at the people in Afghanistan. I mean, it's just, we're known for doing this like all over the world. And then, for us Americans, it's easy for us to sit back and point our fingers and say, why are people living this way in that country? Like, why is that country so poor? And just not knowing the history, then you get lost in the sauce and you just think that, well, we're just exceptional. No, we steal and kill people.
And I don't know if have you seen the latest statement from Zoran Mamdani? Who is what I thought he was. He is what I thought he was.
I'll talk about that later tonight, but okay. Yep.
He is exactly what I thought he was. At a time when the U.S. is trying to overthrow Venezuela and the U.S. has decided, we're going to, go back to this Monroe Doctrine. And he comes out and he denounces Maduro and the Cuban leader and their dictators, and they're suppressing free and fair elections. The guy's a fraud and his wife's a spook. Somebody out there, do me a favor, find somewhere that his wife existed before 2022 and explain to me, find somewhere that she existed before 2022. I'm a trained investigator. I can't find anything. The only thing I find is inferences that say, yes, during COVID, she lived with her family, but you will never find anything about any members of her family, no matter how hard you search. Even there are articles that say his wife, her family. And when you get down to family, it says she lived with her family during the COVID, but it never says who they are. And explain, and they in all of these articles, right? They say, yes, she is a Palestinian activist for the Palestinians, right? So she's an activist for the Palestinians. But why is it that I can never find a statement from her? I can never find any event she's ever been to, anything she's ever spoken, anything relating to. So she's a Palestinian activist, but you can never find anything that she's ever said or done related to that. And last of all, explain this to me. Where she first seemed to have popped up is in 2022, where she was working with the BBC on a documentary. The BBC loves her. Reuters loves her. The New Yorker loves her. The New York Times loves her. The Washington Post loves her. A Palestinian activist. And all of the neocon papers love the ground that she walks on, works with her, puts her art out. A Palestinian activist. She's apparently the only Palestinian activist that they like. But she's a Palestinian activist. Nowhere can I find her activism or anything about her before 2022. The only thing I really found out, she claims to have gone to a college in Richmond. And I found that one of these like alumni associations local from Richmond sent something to her and said, hey, you went to school in Richmond. I think it was VRI or something, Virginia something Institute. What was your favorite place in Richmond to hang out? She never answered. I suspect she's never been to Richmond. So how would she answer? That's about it. There's nothing. I'm convinced that she's an operation, that she's an operative. And by the way, she told the New York Times that she was born in Syria because they say she's a Syrian-born or Syrian activist. However, when Mandani's campaign was asked where was she born, they said Houston, Texas. So was either born in Syria or Houston, Texas. We're not sure. She seems to have no family or no parents anywhere that we can ever find. Nothing we can connect her to. Know where she went to school. Know where she went to high school. Where she grew up. Who her friends were. Nothing. She's a ghost or a spook.
Wow, I didn't know that. I did
look
not
it up. Find something on her. Best of luck.
Well, because I do want to ask you about the Gaza plan that Trump did here. But since you brought that up, what do you say to those? Because, I've had this discussion with people back and forth. And I just tell people, don't put all your hope and faith in a politician, right? And to hold them accountable. But ultimately, I feel like people should spend 80% of their time doing like mutual aid, direct action, that type of stuff, doing things to build dual power, and not spending 80% just hoping on a politician because they will disappoint you. What do you say to those New Yorkers that say, okay, he's not perfect. I just want to have my rent not increase anymore. What about those people?
Well, I'll put it like this. I don't believe any of that's going to happen. I believe that this guy's going to come in. But here's the thing, there's nothing wrong with voting for him if you feel like that. There are people who say, look, it's important because he's pushing back against Zionism. And so therefore it's important to get him in so that people will see that you can push back against Zionism and win. Well, he's pushed back against Netanyahu. I know that. He said, I'd arrest Netanyahu. But
he started walking that back already, by the way.
Yeah, and by the way, he said that, but he can't arrest Netanyahu because the New York City police does not have jurisdiction based on international court when the United States isn't even a member of the international court. I mean, it's good rhetoric, but there's no real substance to it. He couldn't really do it. I'd arrest Netanyahu. It's great to say that when you know you can't do it. I don't trust him. But that's fine. People can vote him. I mean, if you love AOC and Bernie Sanders, you'll probably love this guy. He's already got with Bernie. He's already called him Maduro's a dictator.
And that brings me to the Trump peace plan here. Some people didn't realize this, but shout out to Echo. So much for Trump's peace plan, LOL, which Israel did not even sign. And you can see 5 sites did report this. No, Israel did not sign the Declaration for Enduring Peace and Prosperity on October 13th. The declaration was signed by the leaders of the United States, Egypt, Qatar, and Turkey at a summit in Sharm el-Sheikh. And then it goes on to say there more about the specifics. What's your take on this, Garland? Because I saw quite a bit of people celebrating when this ceremony took place. They were like, yay, the Palestinian people finally get to go back home, etc. And then not even 24 hours, Israel was already killing Palestinian people again. What do you think about this? This fact that a lot of people didn't notice that Israel did not sign that document.
Well, here's the thing, though, when it comes to the Trump team, Trump's is, he's the entertainer, right? So he's real good at ceremonies. The important thing was that he had a ceremony, that he had, like the old days when the politicians, like, oh, they're building a new firehouse, and the politician would be there to shovel the first shovel of dirt and a ribbon cutting ceremony and take all of these pictures. Look what we're doing in your community, right? That's Trump. Those are the kinds of things that he likes, ceremonial kind of stuff. The problem is when it comes to policy, there's no depth. So they've got a ceasefire agreement, so-called, but when you start trying to dig into it, what's going to happen here? What foundations have been laid? You know what I mean? What agreements have they made with their? Okay, so some Muslim countries will come in. Which countries have agreed, and how many soldiers are they? Shouldn't you have that all done? But you know what I mean? Most of the time, the professionals will have met with what if they say, okay, Muslim countries will send soldiers in, and you ask all the Muslim countries, which one of you guys want to send soldiers? They're all like, hey, we ain't getting involved in that crap. You got to have that ironed out beforehand. You got to have the details ironed out, which is what the Trump people, they don't do. They do it backwards. So Trump wanted to release the doves and the balloons and have fireworks and say, look what I've done. Time for my Nobel Peace Prize. But they never do the background. So there's really no there. There's a peace plan. There was a celebration. He didn't have buy-in from the parties because, the Israelis are not competent to buy in of anything because they're, kind of barbaric lunatics at this point as a society. The only thing that can happen with Israel is you have to force something on them, and the U.S. ain't going to force nothing on them. So I think, I'll say this, my prediction was, for a while, they got to get this stopped before the 1st of January when primary season kicks in and all these people are going to be primary and Democrats and a bunch of them, Republicans who are pissed saying, hey, I didn't know we were the United States of Israel, right? Some of them are going to get primaried. So I think the plan is we got to shut this thing down before primary season because this is going to go real bad for us if it's going on during primary season. So in my opinion, their concerns were it's internal politics more than anything else. And of course, Trump wanting the ceremony, he got the ceremony. But how do you hold an agreement together that has no foundation, that has no details done? And you're dealing with a lunatic, genocidal, knuckle dragging government of Israel.
Yeah, we're already seeing some things already play out. I don't know if you saw this, but Congressman Seth Moulton, who is representative from my state of Massachusetts, he just announced that he is refunding AIPAC's money and he will not be taking donations from AIPAC going forward. But then he also said in his statement that he's still a friend of Israel. He just doesn't like that AIPAC is aligned with Netanyahu's government. And so that, again, it leaves the door open to the fact that if Netanyahu, were to be removed at any point in time, you would be open to taking those funds again because he wouldn't be in. You know what I mean? But we're starting to see where Seth Moulton, for those who don't know, he wants to run for Senate. Right. I think he's going to run against Ed Markey, it looks like. So I feel like he's doing this because he wants to try to get that Senate seat.
Well, and don't tell me, well, okay, I'm not taking money from AIPAC anymore. I've taken so much from them. I've taken enough from them now. What the heck? If I never get another dime, it won't matter at this point. And I'm supposed to believe you, number one, who believes these people anymore? And last but not least, I think that, it's at a point where you're just trying to win. You can tell me about who you're taking money from or who you're not taking money from. Have you supported these policies? Yes, you have. Yeah. And the safe bet is consistency. My bet is if you've supported these policies, you'll continue to support them. Have you come out and said, you know what, I've had an epiphany here. What I've been doing is wrong. I can't support policies. I don't care if it's Israel or anybody. I can't support policies that are wrong. So what? No, I'm not going to take money from AIPAC, but I'm just going to keep doing the same thing I've done. The issue is not that you're taking money from AIPAC. If AIPAC was to say to me, Garland, will give you $1 million, but you just keep doing what you're doing. well, I wouldn't take it because they Charlie Kirk me as soon as I found out that I wasn't going to do what they want. But you get my point. The issue is not that you're taking money from AIPAC. The issue is the policy decisions that you're making. So whether or not, let's say let's say for the sake of argument, there is a person who is in Congress and they say, I won't take a dime from AIPAC ever. And we say that's a good thing. However, I'll support Israel with everything they do. I don't need their money. I just love them. I'll support them in everything they do. I think they should kill more people, but I'm not going to take money from AIPAC. The issue is not that you're taking money from AIPAC. It's the policies that you are supporting, the policies that you are pushing and enacting. And whether or not just stopping to take money from AIPAC, so what? It's like you've heard the term about a dry drunk, a person who's an alcoholic who stops drinking, but they still maintain all of the characteristics of an alcoholic, in their life, and their life still goes bad because they haven't gotten themselves together. Just because a person who is no longer addicted to a particular drug, they've really got to do some other work to rehab themselves so they don't fall back into the same patterns and hanging out with the same people and all of those things. So the issue is not that you take, so what? Stop taking money from AIPAC. Tell me that you're going to stop supporting genocide. And I don't believe you anyway.
Well said. Garland, thank you. Thank you so much for your time. Can you tell people where they can find you?
Oh, yes. They can find me on my YouTube. I'm on Telegram. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, but my YouTube channel.
All right. Garland, thank you so much.
All right. Thank you. Look forward to seeing you again. Talking to you again soon. Bye.
Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.